My name is Beth Lambert, and I'm the director of the Massachusetts Division of Ecological Restoration, which is part of the Department of Fish and Game. And the commissioner of the Department of Fish and Game was going to be here today to give this presentation. At the last minute, he was unable to. So that's exciting for me because I have an opportunity to speak about a topic that I don't usually have the opportunity to talk about. So today I'm going to be talking about the biodiversity plan that the state has developed. And for a little bit of background, where this came from was that in 2023, Governor Maura Healey made Massachusetts history by calling for Massachusetts to develop biodiversity conservation goals, starting with goals for 2030 and carrying forward to 2050. And then later in 2025, the governor and probably many of you in this room today came together in Barnstable and announced a biodiversity plan to support biodiversity conservation. And so I'm going to be talking a little bit about biodiversity and about the plan, and then about what my own division is doing to support this plan. So as you all know, biodiversity is really the great abundance and variety of life that we have in Massachusetts. And that ranges from the zooplankton and the phytoplankton to the fish, to the insects, to the birds, to the wildlife throughout the state. And it's all around us. It's in our neighborhoods. You know, it's not just in state parks and national parks, but it's in our schoolyards, our backyards, our gardens, our parks, our highway median strips, you know, everywhere in the state. It sustains us in many different ways. It sustains us spiritually. It sustains our physical selves when we are outside in nature. And it also sustains our economy in a variety of ways. And this slide illustrates some of the ways in which biodiversity sustains us economically. For example, in Hurricane Sandy in 2012, the salt marshes saved communities over $625 million. And that is just one example of the ways in which biodiversity can protect us and sustain our economy. As we know, there are many threats to biodiversity, and here the official talking points for the presentation call for me to talk about the crisis of biodiversity. But I'm not here today to talk about crisis. I am here to talk about this plan and the hope that it brings and the things that we can do together to address the challenge of biodiversity. So a little bit about how this plan was developed. My agency, Department of Fish and Game, coordinated the development of the plan, but the plan is based on the ideas of many different organizations, from nonprofits to agencies to individual people across the Commonwealth, many of whom participated in speaking and listening sessions, submitted written comments, participated in one-on-one meetings with folks in our agency. And so although this plan is issued by the state, it's intended to capture the vision of everyone in Massachusetts and to be a plan that is not only whole of government, but whole of state. And so as I'm talking, I'm going to be using the word we a lot. We are going to do this. We are going to do that. When I say we, I'm referring to the community of Massachusetts. All the agencies, the towns, the nonprofits, the individuals across the state. It's not what we, the government of Massachusetts, is doing or what we, the Department of Fish and Game, are doing, but we, the global and state conservation community that's here, part of which is gathered here today. So the plan has 4 pillars to it, 4 main goals. They are protect, restore, sustain, and connect. And I'm going to run through those just briefly. And these are relevant across all scales, from the local to the state, and of course, nationally and internationally as well. So by protecting, we mean permanently securing from harm, from development, from pollution, and from climate impacts. By restore, we mean transforming degraded habitats into habitats that are resilient and self-sustaining and can support nature into 2050 and beyond. So a few more details about what this plan consists of. So within goal number 1, which is protect, we seek to double the pace of land protection in Massachusetts in order to achieve 40% of the land to be protected by 2050. And again, when I say we, it's not just we, the state, it's we, the conservation community across the state. As part of that, we intend to, in total, protect over 1.5 million acres of key habitats around the state, as well as wildlife migration corridors. And along with that, we intend to advance consideration of Cash's Ledge National Marine Sanctuary. Under the second goal, which is restore, our goal is to restore 75% of the most important habitats by 2050. And there's a couple of specific objectives in there, which if any of you are working in the restoration space, you will know that, that these are quite ambitious. So our goal is to remove over 10% of the unwanted dams in the state. We also have a goal of upgrading and upsizing at least 10% of the road stream crossings or culverts. And then we want to restore the most important marine habitats as well as fish passage for diagamous species in all of our coastal rivers by 2050. Goal number 3 is to sustain. And so part of that involves supporting biodiversity on farms and in local food systems so that we can sustain our communities. This includes sustaining the blue economy and the seafood industry. And along with that, we want to increase food security with access to wild foods across the state. Goal number 4 is connect, and that speaks to bringing people together with nature in all places in the state, whether it's in a backyard, whether it's in a garden or a schoolyard, or in a state park, or at a beach or national park. We seek to integrate biodiversity conservation concepts into the school curriculum and standards as part of that. And we seek to emphasize workforce development because biodiversity is a true economic engine with room for many different skills and with room to grow industries and careers. So what is the state doing now? This plan was announced in 2025, last, I think, August or September. So it has only been enacted recently. But just a few weeks ago, the Healy administration announced $1 million in grants to communities, nonprofits, schools, and others across the Commonwealth to advance biodiversity. The incredible thing here isn't the $1 million. The incredible thing is that our agency received over 100 grant applications from across the state to advance biodiversity projects, both locally and statewide. And what this tells us is that there is broad support for biodiversity in every town in Massachusetts, in every agency and every organization. We heard from farms, we heard from foresters, we heard from universities, we heard from municipalities, we heard from, I'm just trying to think of the wide range of applicants. In short, what it told us is that although we only have $1 million, there is huge need and interest in biodiversity and supporting biodiversity across the state. Similarly, another example, a completely different example, our division has been working with DOT on their new community culvert replacement program. That culvert replacement program is going to be awarding over the next 10 years, $200 million to upsize undersized and failing culverts. And through our partnership and through this biodiversity plan, for the first time, those grant criteria are going to include biodiversity as one of the important factors that will lead to selection of culverts to receive these grants. The grants will award funds based on biodiversity, resilience, and public safety. So those three things are coming together, and that is an example of the vision for this plan, where it's whole of government, where biodiversity is integrated into everyday life and all the decisions that we make. And the Mass Ready Act contains significant funding for biodiversity as well, including $5 million for marine restoration in particular. I want to talk just for a minute before I close about what the Division of Ecological Restoration is doing in support of biodiversity. So our mission is to restore and protect rivers, wetlands, and watersheds for the benefit of people and the environment. We're completely non-regulatory. We don't have any species management authority. Instead, we work in partnership with communities, landowners, nonprofits, and others across the state to advance ecological restoration and biodiversity. And we do three things. We lead restoration projects in partnership with others, with many of you in this room, in fact. We build restoration capacity by bringing resources and training to those that need it to lead restoration projects themselves. And then lastly, we share the restoration knowledge that we've gained over our last 15 years of investing in these projects. We work entirely across the state. This map shows our current projects, and the mapped lines show where we are funding restoration partnerships, where we are providing capacity to local organizations so that they too can also lead and support restoration. Right now, this year, we have over $29 million invested in restoration projects that are taking place across the state. Of that $29 million, $27 million of it is in grants and contracts with communities, landowners, and others that are leading restoration projects. These are one-time funds. They came from the American Recovery Act several years ago. And so we are using them to make a big push. With these funds, we will be able to restore hundreds of wetlands acres and open up hundreds of river miles in support of Massachusetts biodiversity. So in closing, I think what I want to say, sort of reflecting on the first panel that we heard, and then thinking about this all of government, all of community biodiversity plan, and then thinking about the work that my own division has been doing. You know, we are facing an incredible biodiversity challenge, but we have the knowledge, we have the skills, and we have the ability to work together. We know what we need to do, and we're capable of it, and we're already doing it. And so that is, I think, is the main thought that I want to leave you with, that there's actually incredible hope in front of us because we have the knowledge, because we have the skills, and because we've honed our work together over the last 15 years. So thank you.
You can stay right there, Beth, because I'm sure we'll have time for questions. Do we have any takers for questions? We have a few minutes. Yes, I'm going to run the microphone to you just so that we can pick up that audio very well.
While she's doing that, this website shows you the full biodiversity plan. I just touched on a few things. The biodiversity plan is huge, and it contains hundreds of recommended goals and objectives. So take a look at it. It's fascinating, and the fact that it came from all of you, essentially, is really motivating and inspiring.
Yeah. Hi, thank you for that. My name is Wyatt. I'm a TerraCorps member at Mass Audubon. So I just wanted to ask more about some of the goals you had, particularly protection, when you said like land protected. I feel like I hear that a lot, but I don't necessarily know what does protection entail. Does that mean, do all these lands have CRs? Or are you just preventing other people from developing on them? Because a lot of time, right, this owned land can still be degrading if it's not being actively stewarded. So what does that protection entail before you get to the restoration part?
Yep. So in this context, the term protection is meant broadly, both in terms of, say, purchasing land, but also conservation restrictions, also regulations that protect all lands. So it's meant very broadly. That said, the goal is to double the pace of land protection, meaning the purchasing and setting aside of land. Yep.
Thank you. I see. Oh, this side is dominating the questions, so keep your hands coming. We'll take Stephen. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, Steve Uzo from the Museum of Natural History of Cape Cod. And I guess what role do nature-based solutions have in this? One of the problems that I see that doesn't get addressed adequately is how we get people to understand nature-based solutions as opposed to armoring or, other kinds of ways that we think of culturally that we will resist nature rather than figuring out the ways to work with it toward the goals of biodiversity.
Yeah. So the first part of the question, what role do nature-based solutions play in this plan? They play a large role because biodiversity conservation, restoration, protection is itself a nature-based solution to climate change. So that's interwoven throughout this plan. And if you go to actually read the various objectives and recommended actions within the plan, you'll see nature-based solutions woven throughout that. For the second part, I absolutely acknowledge the challenge that you're bringing up, and it is a real challenge.
Sure. Hi, Beth. Kristen Uterwick with the Urban Harbors Institute at UMass Boston. My question was about how you define the term most important. It came up under protect. It came up under restore. It shows up on many of your slides. Is that defined somehow? And who makes that decision?
Yeah. I believe that it is, if you read the plan, there are many places where specific habitats are called out, but also the phrase most important is used broadly to indicate that there are important habitats everywhere, and that a degraded urban stream can be equally important, if not more important, to the people that live along it than a pure cold water stream in Western Massachusetts. So that term is used broadly, and so with purpose, on purpose. And so then the actions themselves within the plan sort of move towards a wide range of habitat types, from those that are not degraded at all to those that are fully degraded without exclusion.
All right. Thank you for the great questions. And can you just join me in thanking Beth again? Thank you, Beth.